I love to read. I really do. I love to read, and I read all sorts of books. I read all sorts of genres. Excuse me. Uh, um, I love Sherlock Holmes and Dracula and the Phantom of the Opera and the Hunchback of Notre Dame and Frankenstein. And I love things like The Parasol Protectorate and Harry Potter and Artemis Fowl. I have loved books like A Dog's Purpose and A Dog's Journey. I love the Hamish Macbeth mysteries. And I actually love the Agatha Raisin mysteries, even though sometimes Agatha can get on my nerves. I love cozy mysteries and bloody mysteries. I love horror novels. I've read a lot of Stephen King. I've read a lot of Dean Koontz. I've read some Clive Barker. I just love to read. As much as I love to read, I'm not a very good writer. I'm really not. I'm great at coming up with plots and characters. I suck at coming up with character names, writing dialogue, and writing action scenes. I can give you a great big huge paragraph describing a room or the way a character looks or their personality or the way they walk, but putting words in their mouth or writing a fight scene for them, not so great at. So that's why even though I have ideas and things that I would love to see, that's why I don't write. And basically this is a Steal My Ideas video for the writers out there. One of my fantasies since childhood on is I would love to be the inspiration behind a great fictional character. Or the inspiration behind a novel or just something. I want to be somebody's muse. And I would prefer to be the spunky heroine. Or the socially awkward heroine, actually. But I'll take the villain, just as long as I'm not the spunky sidekick. Alright? But that being said, there are some things I would really love to see that I have not found. Now, maybe they exist, and maybe you know of something where they exist. I've just recently started reading Terry Pratchett again. I read one of his books in high school, and I really didn't like it. But I decided to give him another chance because one of my favorite YouTubers happens to like him a lot. So I decided to give Terry Pratchett another chance. Maybe I'll find some of this in Terry Pratchett. We'll see. So let's start off with the first trope that I'm kind of tired of and I'd like to see a change. And that is the Chosen One. And we all know the story of the Chosen One. The Chosen One was chosen by prophecy, or in Harry Potter's case, he was chosen by Lord Voldemort. Or as I like to call him, Moldy Voldy. Because it could have just as easily been Neville Longbottom, folks. It could have been Neville Longbottom and the Philosopher's Stone. But, with the exception of Harry Potter, they're all chosen by prophecy, or Luke Skywalker or Anakin Skywalker. And I truthfully believe that in a way Rey and Finn are chosen ones too. The chosen one has to go off and fulfill this prophecy. How about the chosen one says, you know what? I have free will, and I don't want to do this, and I'm not going to do this. I'm very sorry, but you're going to have to learn to deal with this without me. And they just take off, and we never see him for the rest of the book. And instead of the chosen one doing the thing that was prophesied that they would do, we instead get their overshadowed best friend, or maybe even the person that everybody in town bullied because there was no prophecy about them, or what have you. Everybody thought that they weren't special. And that person says, you know what? If they're not going to do it, I'm going to do it. And we see this person work hard to turn themselves into the chosen one. And they end up doing the thing that the chosen one was supposed to do, but the chosen one chose not to do. I would love to see that. Another thing is, and I know some people are going to be, it's sex appeal and all that. I would love to see more positive representation of middle-aged women in novels. And I'm not talking about whiny, soppy novels where she falls in love with a man who dies in the end. Or, Oh, being a mother is so hard. Because not every middle-aged woman is a mother. Some of us are child-free by choice, people. You know, I would love to see I would love to see a middle-aged woman going off and being the hero. The middle-aged woman goes off and slays the dragon. Or maybe the middle-aged woman goes off and makes friends with the dragon and slays the jerky knight instead. You know, I would love to see... I'm a socially awkward middle-aged woman. Believe it or not, even though I'm fat, I actually have had guys all over me, and it makes me extremely uncomfortable, and I don't know what to do, and I start freaking out. One time in Vegas, I had this drunk Marine who would not leave me alone, and his equally creepy drunk girlfriend who was off on other guys, so apparently they were looking for a group thing. Man, I really wish somebody would have come to my rescue that night. I really do. I even mouthed, "Help me," to another woman, and she just rolled her eyes at me. You know, and it's a big, long story that I don't want to get into, but I couldn't leave the bar because of another person who was there, that I was with, and that person was refusing to leave. So, and I would have just loved to have, I would love to have somebody come up and rescue me, and I would actually love to see that in a novel. I would love to see, like, this very, you know, I don't want to say, I would love to see a guy who is just very well dressed, let's say, maybe even a vampire, who comes up and saves the socially awkward woman from the creeper. All right, and not because he actually wants anything of her, he just feels sorry for her. And he wants to give her some self-confidence so the next time somebody drunk is hanging all over her, she can say, "Bug off." And they will actually do it. You know, that's the sort of thing I would love to see. I cannot find any novels with asexual women. Every time I search for books about asexual characters, it's always young adult fiction about an asexual teenage boy who meets a very special boy. I won't, you know. So they're young adult gay romances. That's all I can personally find. Now maybe there's stories out there about asexual teenage girls. Maybe there's stories out there about asexual men. There may be stories out there about asexual women. I can't find them. I would love to see more positive representation with no romance about asexual characters, whether they're whether it's a teenage boy or a middle-aged woman or an 80-year-old man who has come to terms with the fact that he is asexual at 80 years old. You know, and it's not because of his age. He's always been like this, but he's always had to conform to society's expectations of a man. I would love to see positive representation of asexuals, whether they are gray ace or arrow ace or sex repulse ace, what have you, demisexual, anywhere on the asexual spectrum. That is not a romance. No romance. Give me an action adventure. Give me a fantasy. Give me a horror novel. Give me something with an asexual lead with no love interest. I would love to see that. I really would. That's the kind of thing I would love to see. I would love to see more vampire novels that incorporate actual vampire folklore, where they can feed off of nightmares, and they can feed off of orgasms and not just blood. I would love, and I've read the Harry Dresden novels, by the way. All right, I'm talking about a vampire that can feed on all those things all together. I'm not talking about You know, what goes on in the Dresden Files. I'm talking about one vampire that can feed on nightmares and orgasms and blood altogether. And vampires that can go out in the daylight. Their powers are just not as strong. I would love to see a novel about shapeshifters going after werewolves, because werewolves are out of control, but shapeshifters, actual shapeshifters, control, and werewolves are a threat to their society and a threat to their existence because they can expose the entire shapeshifter community. So I would love to see werewolves versus skinwalkers versus shapeshifters. You know, that's the kind of thing I would love to see. Never see it, but it could be out there, and I just haven't discovered it yet. So part of the reason why I'm making this video is so you can make book recommendations for me. Now I'm giving Terry Pratchett another chance. I read one of his novels in high school and I didn't like it, so for a long time I didn't read. But I decided, to give him another chance because somebody who's a friend of mine really likes him, and I'm actually enjoying it this time around. So, I actually am. So maybe Terry Pratchett has what I need. Maybe not. We'll find out. It's like that Tumblr post about wanting to see a fairy tale about an 80-year-old woman who goes on an adventure. That's what I'm craving. I'm craving something different. I'm craving older characters. I'm craving child-free characters. I'm craving asexual characters. I'm craving different scenarios with where the chosen one cheeses off, where the vampire does not burn up in sunlight, where somebody who's socially awkward is the hero and is not as annoying as me. So make those book recommendations down in the comments, folks. And if you're an author, maybe you'll write me one of these. Pretty please. Pretty please. Thank you.